Archbishop Sarah, what has this journey been like so far?
Oh gosh, well, it's been a real mixture, Dom. It hasn't always been easy. There have been some tough moments, but what's been really wonderful are the people that we've met along the way. Both those formally, for example, I was at St Mark's in Eccles this morning, the school, and they're just such a joy. But also meeting people who you bump into and they just sort of say, "Oh, I've seen you on the telly," and you have a conversation. So it's been a real time of encounter, but also an opportunity for prayer and reflection as well.
How have you been preparing for Wednesday? It's going to be an event seen by many around the world, but for you personally, how have you been getting ready for that?
Well, in a sense, some of the preparation occurred just in that discernment about taking upon the role. So a prayerful reflection, prayerful on my own, but with other people. And for me, this sense of pilgrimage has been a sense of travelling from London, where I was the bishop, to Canterbury, where I'm the Archbishop. So in a sense, this has been part of my preparation, spending time with God, but also with other people.
Was that important as well, to make sure that you did do something like a pilgrimage to get ready for it? Because when that event happens, of course, there are TV cameras, there's radio people, there are all sorts of things going on, but ultimately it's a day where people see you maybe for the first time as Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yes, it was important, partly because all of our lives are very busy. So how you find time in your life when it's really busy, just to pause and reflect, is really important. And so in a sense, the pilgrimage for me was also an opportunity of finding that space to reflect and to have that sense, what is God calling me to do?
On the previous, with the previous Archbishop, on the eve of the ceremony itself, I asked him what he was most worried about. He told me knocking into a pillar. Are you worried about anything?
I think, not about the day, no. I think that it is a service. There are lots of people that will provide, great support. The truth is, I think it will be a really happy, joyous occasion, not just about me, but about the celebration of the church, the Anglican communion, and God.
And within that church, there are obviously challenging times and tackling abuse within the church. And you've talked a lot about misogyny too. How do you make sure that your ministry, once that day is over, really focuses in on that, particularly for the survivors of abuse who have been worried?
Well, at the heart of the gospel is our care of the most vulnerable people. And so we have to take safeguarding seriously. And the church has seen real improvement in terms of listening to survivors and victims, in terms of policies, in terms of investment, in terms of dealing with it. And so I'm committed to ensure that we continue to do that, to have a church that is trauma-informed, that listens to survivors and victims of abuse, but also has good processes to deal with it.
And take a tougher stance?
I think we have seen the church improve over time. I think the policies are better, the investment is there, we are listening to survivors and victims, and I will continue to make that commitment.
In Canterbury this week, we have obviously had 2 tragic deaths, a number of people hospitalised because of meningitis B. You have said about praying. How have you also been reflecting on what has happened in that city?
Yeah, so my prayers and my thoughts continue to be with those families and all those that have been impacted by the outbreak of meningitis, and also to the staff that are dealing with that. So I continue to pray for them. And one of my reflections is that the health service staff are dealing with it calmly, professionally and effectively. And therefore, the encouraging people to listen to advice, to act if they think that they need to, but also the reassurance from those organisations.
But a scary time for people.
It's, of course, with anything like this, when it happens, it is a scary time. And also I think that young people are very aware of meningitis, and therefore when it comes to their doorsteps, they're bound to be anxious, and that's absolutely normal. But I would encourage them to listen to the health advice that's being given, and if they think they need to go and seek support, do that, but listen to the advice. It is being very calmly and sensibly given.
Finally, just a moment of reflection for Bishop Andrew, the Bishop of Guildford. It's his funeral on Monday. Just your thoughts on him, his sudden death from cancer.
I was very privileged to meet with Bishop Andrew on Ash Wednesday, and his Christian faith was so inspirational. He had a real calm sense of assurance about his death and therefore his resurrection, his coming into the kingdom. And for me, that was inspiring. He has impacted the lives of so many people. And my prayers are for Beverly and for his family, for his mother and all those that will be grieving. And so Monday will be a time for us to reflect on his life, to respond to our own grief, but also to celebrate all that he was for us.
We are walking in the light of God. We are walking in the light of God.
So when you started this walk from London and going through, did you appreciate how far the walk was?
Yeah, so I did know how far it was, but there's a sense in which until you start putting one foot in front of the other, you don't quite know how the journey will go. So I knew how far it was, but you just start walking, and the important thing is to keep walking.
How have the feet been?
They've been all right, actually. They've been all right, but there's still 2.5 days left. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. So we do walk. My husband and I do walk quite a lot, and I have a slightly faster pace on. I think that may well be the product of being a nurse. But I think one of the things that walking teaches you is the importance to slow down. Because actually to reflect, to pray, means that you do have to slow down, and I think that's a good message for life.
Speaking of husband Eamon, who I know is walking amongst us here as well, that support that you both had from the church, but also within your wider family and group, is that preparing you both for the new role that you were about to take on?
Well, I've always felt that whatever role I've had, I couldn't have done it if it wasn't for the support of Eamon, my family and my friends, and probably more significant that feels now because of the role and the enormity of it. But I'm reassured by their support, but also by that sense of God's faithfulness to me that has always underpinned my ministry. I look forward to the Prince of Wales and Princess Catherine being with us for the installation next week.
Now, as you're about to go off into the rest of the county of Kent, I thought you might need this, a little foot pack at the end of this journey.
Oh, I will look forward. I shall look forward to using that. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure I'll need it by then.
Well, look, thank you so much for being with us on BBC Radio Kent and on South East today. Really lovely to meet you.
Thank you very much. Really nice to have met you. Thank you for your time.